Well, good afternoon, everybody. Today, I'm going to talk to you about how AR is going to change the way that we experience music. Music and technology have gone hand in hand for well over 150 years. From when we first started recording sounds onto cylinders of tin foil, we emerged from that and started doing it on wax. We flattened it to make it more accessible and more transferable and put it onto vinyls. We moved out onto magnetic recording, onto radio, and then onto the world of digital music as we know it today. And the same is true of instrumentation and how we actually create the music. Think of the electric guitar, the synthesizer, the samplers, and again, the amazing digital tools we have today. Music and technology is so closely aligned, and AR is going to be the next thing on that journey about changing how we experience music. But before I can go any further into that, what I want to establish is why music and sound, more importantly, is a critical part of reality. We use sound all the time, but it's worth really pointing out what we do with sound. So sound is a form of speech. We use it to communicate with each other. We use it when we talk, just like I'm doing now. We use it to express ourselves with the sounds that we make, like squeals of excitement or sighs of discontentment. We use sound to understand our environment. I know I'm sitting here at F8 because I can, in the middle of the conference room, because I can hear all the sound around us. Or if I'm a busy street, I know that a motorbike coming past me, I know what it is, I know the direction it's come from, and I know all about it. And that's just from the sound without even turning my head. And so we come to music. When we listen to music, music changes our mood. A string quartet can make us feel sad, or an upbeat dance tune can make us feel happy, pumped up, and excited. But what I want to do, I want to show you a video which really illustrates the power of music. It's going to be 4 videos, actually, but the videos themselves, the visuals, are all exactly the same. The only thing I'm going to swap out is the music. And what I want you to think about is how that changes the way you view that scene, how different it feels, what it makes you how it makes you feel, and what it makes you think the scene's actually about. And all the music is from Facebook's sound collection. So there we go. 4 identical films in terms of the visuals and completely different interpretations when you hear the music. We've gone from some scary chase scene right through to a sort of Hawaiian beach holiday, and I haven't changed the visuals at all. So I think it's fair to say that sound is critical to reality. But I want to make another point. We're talking about AR here. AR is a new computing platform. It will change the way we experience the world. It will change the way we interact with the world. Because sound is such a critical part of the world, sound also needs to be a critical part of augmented reality. But this isn't some faraway thing. It's not something we need to think about in the future, far off augmented reality. We need to think about it right now. And I'm looking around the room, and I can see some people who have created effects. And I want to encourage you to either pick up AR Studio and start doing it yourself. And when you do, start thinking about the sound. So I'm going to show you some effects that are currently being used on our platform, and I'm going to show you to them with and without the sound. And I'm going to let you judge which ones are better. Okay.
Welcome to augmented reality. Welcome to augmented reality.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Awesome. So I think you'll agree the ones with sound are better, right? It's pretty clear. But let's talk about music. Let's talk about music specifically in more depth. What is it about music that makes it so important? Well, for me, Billy Joel said it best in a 1986 interview with Rolling Stone. He said, "It's an explosive expression of humanity, something we are all touched by. No matter what culture you're from, everybody loves music." And for me, there are three key and equally important parts of that quote. The first is that it's an expression of humanity. Music gives you great expressive power. In many cases, it's far more effective than words or imagery alone, which I think we've seen some examples of that earlier. Two, we're touched by it. Who hasn't felt happy, sad, excited when listening to music? It's expressive, and it actually is effective. It works. People feel something when they listen to music. And three, it's cross-cultural. Music is ubiquitous across the world. It's a medium that crosses linguistic and cultural barriers. And so, because of that power, music is everywhere, from the moment we wake up in the morning to the last thing we listen to at night. We listen to it on our commute to work, we listen to it at the desk, we listen to it when we're exercising, and we listen to it as a soundtrack to our TV, the film we watch, and even the stories on Instagram. Music's expressive, emotionally impactful, and cross-cultural. And because of that, it's a tool to help bring the world closer together. And that's why it's a critical part of AR at Facebook. And so, you guessed it, music is coming to Spark AR. Yes! Woo. But what does that mean? I hear you ask, what does that mean? What's music is coming to Spark AR? Well, I'm going to tell you. So, first up, what we're going to let you do is we're going to make it possible to create effects that work with Facebook's catalog of music that is already available via the Instagram camera. So people using that camera are going to be able to choose music that works with your effect. But hey, I hear you thinking, right, I've got an effect, someone's chosen some music to go with it, that's pretty cool, I've got music, I've got an effect, I've got this amazing catalog of tracks to select from. But as an effect creator, what can I do with this? Well, that's the next thing. So we're going to give you a way to sync the beat of the track to your effect. So imagine the amazing possibilities you can have with music that syncs precisely to the beat of your track. Whatever track someone selects in Instagram, your effect will be able to react automatically and precisely to that. Now, there's a third category. If you're someone who's created your own music, you're a musician yourself, you work with musicians, you might want to be able to upload your own music into Spark Studio and create an effect that works with that. So number three, we're going to allow you to upload custom beat maps. That means you can write your own way of matching specific parts in your track to specific parts in your effect and drive your visuals that way. So those three things together, and especially the last one, give us the power of music within Spark AR. So when you're thinking about how to create an effect, remember to think about all of the things you can do. Use beats. Think about uploading custom tempo maps if that's what you want to do if you're a music creator. And this is the kind of thing which I think is going to usher in a new world of experiencing music via AR. So this is the new way you can create effectively an AR music video. Let the world share in the music experience that you have made via AR. But making an awesome audio experience can be, well, there's some skill to it. And there's some things we've learned over the last few years of doing this well. And I want to introduce onto the stage Dren McDonald, who's going to talk to you about how to get the most out of the sound in your AR experiences. Dren.
Thanks, Tom. Hi. Yeah, my name is Dren McDonald. Dren is easy to remember because it's also nerd spelled backwards. So I got that going for me. There we are. So I do work in immersive audio here in AR and VR. If you've ever made a dramatic super zoom on Instagram, you've heard some of my work. I've done a lot of work, probably on hundreds of effects between Messenger, Messenger Kids, Portal, Storytime, Facebook Camera. And along the way in doing all that, learned a lot about how to get audio and music to sound great in Spark. So that's what I'd like to share with you today. So first, Tom was talking about music in these effects. I thought I'd go over a few musical terms that might be good for you to know if you're not a musician. BPM, tempo, you hear it talked about a lot. So what is BPM, beats per minute? And it can be a number range from 80 to 120 to 30, all over the place. Just means how fast or slow your song is. But what is a beat? A beat is generally quarter notes, and you can see quarter notes up there in a musical expression, 4 quarter notes per bar. So there's 8 notes up there in 2 bars. Down below there, you see the MIDI expression of the same musical notated expression above, and that's in the form of MIDI data. So you've got 4 quarter notes in each bar. So why is it good to have that MIDI data? That's essentially your beat map. Tom talked about tempo maps or beat maps. So if you're importing your own music into your AR effect, you want to have a beat map. And essentially that's what that is. It has tempo information, it's got beats in it. So that's a great start to import into Spark. For the more advanced user, if you don't have your MIDI data, say you got a recording from a friend of yours and it's a folk band or a funk band or a string quartet, and you just don't have beats generated from MIDI, you can create your own tempo map using just about any digital audio workstation. And I kind of do a quick demonstration here in the graphic. You can see I put quarter notes exactly where they should be in that graphic. And those lines down at the bottom sort of represent what the DAW has thrown in there, thinking this might be a beat, that might be a snare drum, that might be a kick drum. The DAW is guessing where you might be a beat. And then where those blue arrows are is where you kind of snap that MIDI information to the audio track and say, here's where beat 2 is, here's where beat 3 is. So that's how you create a tempo map. So you might say to yourself, well, that's going to be a lot of work if I have to do the whole song. In Spark, you never want to have your whole song inside of an effect. It will never load, it's just too big. So you got to pick out a small part of your music to put into the effect. So if you are creating a tempo map, it's only going to be 2 bars, 4 bars, maybe 8 bars. But I thought I'd share with you a little bit about creating a good music edit for a loop. So I've created the bad loop and I've created the good loop. So first we'll hear the bad loop. And basically you'll hear in this loop, you'll see the yellow playhead go through and you'll see where the loop begins and ends. And we'll hear it a few times and have a listen. So it sounds a little disjointed. It just doesn't seem to complete the thought. If you put something like that into your Spark effect, your users are probably going to go a little crazy or not want to spend much time with it. So you want to have a music edit that's going to feel like it's completing the musical phrase. So here's a longer loop, and it kind of shows you how this music will start and begin again. You can watch the playhead again. This was actually a loop that I wrote for a Messenger Kids effect called Dance with Friends. So you can hear when it starts again, it doesn't sound really irritating, and it almost feels like that's the way the song should go. So including that kind of editing in your music loops can really be beneficial. But we don't only have music loops to play with. We have lots of other loops that we can use in our effects. You can have ambient environmental sounds in your effects. Maybe you want to place the user in a loud, crowded restaurant, or maybe you want them in a haunted, scary place, a haunted house or a strange UFO, or maybe you want to put them, it's bowling night on Friday night. You want your bowling night to have an effect. So you create an effect with a bowling atmosphere, or maybe you want to place your user in an awkward situation in front of an unresponsive audience. Or a forest, it could be a forest. Regardless, you have a whole library of sounds to use within Spark. There's the AR library that you can grab some audio clips from that we've provided for you. In addition to ambient sounds, we use a lot of trigger sounds in our effects. And one thing I'd like to share with you is how we use variations in our triggered effects. So what we've got here, I'm going to demonstrate with you. This is not a remote, this is my AR torch. And I'm going to swing my AR torch back and forth. Here we go, and this is what it sounds like. And that doesn't feel embarrassing at all. So what you hear is basically the same sound. After we've heard it maybe twice, we recognize we're hearing the same sound over and over again. So what we like to do is create variations on the same sort of sound, something that we've done in game audio for years. So you take maybe 3 or 4 sounds, put them into a little bucket and call them out randomly, and you'll hear a different sound every time you play that trigger. Now we can also hook that up to the patch editor, and we can introduce pitch and volume randomization within those assets. So within give us even a wider range to create that realism. My magical AR torch. So you can also do that same kind of randomization to introduce delight and surprise to your users. Say you've got a sound when you're tapping your phone, it's the same beep, and maybe every 5th or 6th time you tap it, it's a different sound. It's a duck quack, it's a horn honking, something different. Little Easter eggs to kind of surprise and delight your users. This is a very simple way to introduce some life into your effects where you're connecting facial recognition to the audio loop. So in this one, you'll hear that as soon as the face is away from the camera, the audio all disappears too. It's a very simple way to be effective.
Okay, there's going to be no questions at this time. Please, no questions about me in the kitchen at this time. Look over there. Gotcha, didn't I? No questions, really, I'm not kidding.
So it's a great way to breathe life into your effects and get them to feel very responsive. Just a simple script that fades out the audio when the camera doesn't see a face. So now I'm going to throw a real curve at you. We got the Fletcher Munson curve, but I'm going to demonstrate it before I really talk about it. So I'm going to play 2 sounds, and I want you to tell me which one you think is the louder of the 2 sounds. Okay, it's a trick question. They're both exactly the same volume, but we perceive as humans those higher frequencies to be much louder in our range. So you can see here we've got between 1,000 and 2,000 hertz. In that range, we hear things, we perceive them to be louder than lower frequency sounds. So if we translate that to an effect, say you've got an effect where you've got the sound of a baby crying in your effect. Well, you're probably going to freak some people out by doing that, but at the same time, you won't need to make that baby crying sound very loud, because between 1,000 and 2,000 hertz, which is about the range of a baby crying, which we kind of need for survival skills, right? Hear the baby cry so we can continue our species. That's going to be in the 1,000, 2,000 range. You won't have to make that sound very loud. It will already be perceived as being loud. But if you've got a kick drum or a bass synth line or an engine running, kind of something in the lower frequencies, and you want that to be perceived as loud as that baby cry, you're going to have to really crank it up. And that's what this graph tells us, is that you need to make that really, really loud in order to hear those lower sounds as loud as the higher frequency sounds. But that introduces a new problem. We're playing these back on mobile devices with a tiny little speaker the size of my thumbnail. And that's not going to do a great job of translating the sound of a slam and kick drum or a synth bass line or a car engine. It's probably going to introduce distortion, if anything. So you want to look to not do too many sounds under 120 hertz, because that speaker's just not really going to translate that for you. So looking above to maybe like 150 hertz to 3,000 hertz is a great range to kind of target your sounds and then attenuate according to this curve. So, oh, there's all that stuff I just said. I forgot we did that. Okay, so we've got to nerd out here a little bit on audio theory and kind of dove deep on it. So just a refresher on what we went over here, kind of tempo stuff, BPM, beats per minute, how to create a nice sounding loop that makes sense musically with phrases. Audio reacting to face tracking is a great way to give your effects some life. Ambient loops, audio asset variations, grab them from the AR library. I think we're even going to introduce more of those in there. It's a smaller library. We're going to add more to it. And the Fletcher Munson curve. So, I can't wait to hear what everyone does with all this stuff. And if you have questions for us, Tom and I will be over here at the Spark booth. Just find us over there. We're going to head there right now. And I thank you for your time. Have a great F8.